Jonathan, I wasn't here when you spoke the first time. My name's Rob Domofsky.
Hey, Rob, how you doing?
ESPN.
Yep.
You have this kind of calm demeanor about you that we see. You're walking on the field, but a bunch of your players have just said how energetic. A couple of them use the word crazy.
Ooh.
Where does that come from, and is it natural, or are you trying to do that to make a point?
No, I think I'm energetic by nature because I love what I do, so it's hard not to be energetic and enthused about something. And I'm grateful for this job, so I'm going to show good energy. But the crazy thing, probably, I don't know who said that. They're probably alluding to, I do believe that words paint pictures. So there's certain things in the install or certain things when we're going over a tape review. I'll probably use an example that's non-football related that hopefully it hits their brain and they can understand it a little bit better, or it kind of cements it in, this has to get done. And I sometimes will use some examples that are probably a little bit out there, so maybe that's what they're talking about.
Hey, Jonathan. Tom Silverstein
Tom.
with the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. So 5 games into the season, you're going to get one of the best defensive players in the league back in your lineup, and you don't practice with him until a week or two before that. So how do you prepare to use Micah Parsons now when you don't really have him, and I assume your defense will change to some degree when he
Tom,
comes in?
first of all, let's go back to the first part of your question. Okay. You know something I don't know, huh? I don't know when that's going to be. Every timetable is different. But yeah, I think I think our job as coaches, and in my role specifically as the defensive coordinator, is try to put our 11 in the best positions that we can to affect the game in a positive way. And when you do that, there's an element of your opponent that you're playing as well, right? So I think, what we're doing right now is kind of going through our installs, seeing what our guys are comfortable, seeing their skill sets, seeing what they can do, and then obviously we have a pretty good understanding of the player that Micah is and see where he fits into all that. And a player like that, it's not, very complicated in my opinion to use him or deploy him in a way to affect the game in a positive way. So he's been awesome. He's very smart. He understands a lot of things that we're doing already, how they complement other things that we're trying to do. And he could see himself, we were talking the other day, he could see himself in a bunch of different spots in different calls. So that's kind of cool, and it'll just be our job to make sure that he gets his touches, which he will.
Jonathan, Matt Schneidman with The Athletic. Zaire was telling us how in his early days in Indy, you gave him I think his phrase was battery in his back when he needed it because he didn't feel like he was noticed, but you singled him out in a good way. What did you see in him then to do that, and what do you see now in kind of the leader middle linebacker?
Yeah, I haven't been with him since 2020, I guess, so it seems like a long time ago, but I just knew how much he cared, how good of a teammate he was. And as a young player in this league, everyone has their own journey. The coaching staff that you're with, the system that you're with, the team that you're on, obviously. And I just felt like he was a guy that was going to be a really good football player, and he might have been at that point struggling with something, and we had 2 linebackers in front of him or whatever the case may be. But I think it's our job to make sure that our guys, when they're under our watch, and I wasn't coaching him, but inject belief and confidence in those guys to keep improving on a daily basis to hit their ceiling, whatever that ceiling is. And I don't think anyone ever is a finished product. So there's going to be ups and downs, but you want to try to keep getting better every day. But he definitely has. He's wired the right way, which is one of the reasons we brought him here. Very pleased with what he's doing.
Jonathan, Ryan Wood with Green Bay Press-Gazette. When Carrington went down, you had a couple options for who would get his reps with the first team.
Why was it Brandon, and what have you seen from him just holding up over these first few batting practices with your starting defense?
Yeah, he's doing a good job. I think all our rookies are doing a pretty good job of understanding conceptually what we're trying to get done. This is going to sound easy to you guys, but it is, hard. You have to practice the right way in the NFL. And sometimes that's hard for rookies. We have, I call them rules of engagement. There's certain things, yes, we're playing football in pads, but we are playing against our team, and you have to protect your teammates first. And there's a governor that at times you need to have happen, right? I think all our rookies are getting used to that and doing a good job with that. As it relates to Cisse, we want to see him out there and see what he can do. Obviously we took him where we took him. He's got the skill set that we're looking for. And he's a good guy he's doing a good job of when he makes mistakes are going to happen, especially for a lot of young guys in a new scheme, right? This is a new scheme for him, as it is all our guys. Mistakes are okay, just don't make it the same time, the same mistake again. And I think all our rookies are doing a good job of that.
Along the rookie lineup, Bill Huber from
Yeah, Bill.
on the side. Sticking with the rookie theme, I'm sure you played a bunch of them in your career. Was it a challenge when you have, it looks like Brandon and Chris and Denai all could have pretty big roles right up the bat. What is a challenge for you as a coordinator to be, I won't say leaning on, but those guys are going to be out there quite a bit?
No challenge. I think it's, for rookies, I always say, I feel like rookies it's their hardest year in the NFL, because if you go back from a year from now, if you look at the scope of what they've done through their college season, all-star games, bowl games, all-star games, combine, pro day, draft, OTAs, little bit of time off, which is really no time off, training camp, it's a lot. They really haven't had a break. So when people talk about the rookie wall, I think that's what they're talking. Oh, and then, by the way, go play 17 games. Really 3 preseason games and then 17 games. So it's a long time for those guys to be locked in. I think, their brain has to work extremely well. That's one of the challenges for rookies, not just schematically in football, just from a standpoint of their recovery and their health. Truthfully. So like I said, I think our guys are doing a good job, and if they deserve to be out there and play, they're going to play.
Hey, Jonathan, Paul Brettel, Wisconsin State Journal. Since arriving here, seeing Barron Sorrell, getting to know him, what have you kind of learned about his game on the practice field and kind of where he can fit within what you want?
Yeah, he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He's a great teammate. He's tough as nails, and he can make a bunch of plays, and I think, it's been cool to see his versatility. We're trying a bunch of guys out at a bunch of different spots, and he can do a lot of things, which is good.
Hey, Jonathan, I'm Dominique Yates, also with the Journal Sentinel. For a guy like Lucas Van Ness, what have been your impressions of him throughout camp in this offseason, and I guess what challenges have you brought forth to him heading into this year?
Yeah, it's just like all of our players. Consistency is key. Matt and I talked about this. I talked to the defense. I told you guys I'm not a huge quote guy, but I'll give 1 or 2 over a course of a month. And the first one I said, and I do believe this in training camp, it's like intensity makes for a good story, consistency makes for good results. And what you're saying is well, anybody can go work out for 3 hours one day, and then they don't work out for a week, and they're not in shape, right? Where if the guy that works out 30 minutes a day for 7 days in a row, he's probably going to be in better shape, right? Our guys, okay, we have a standard that we want to play. One day to do it's great. Can you do it day 3, 4, so on and so forth? So that was my challenge to Lucas, and he's done a good job of responding to that, and he's been working on some things with DeMarcus, and he's in a good spot.
Coach, Wayne Larrabee with the Packers Radio Network. Defensive lineman, I asked one of your linemen the other day what position you played. He said, I don't know. Are all those guys interchangeable on the inside? Is that one of the things?
I hope he knows. I sound like not very smart. I think right now Vince has done a good job of mixing and matching those guys. And they have to be, in my opinion, they have to be able to play different spots. You know, because if we say, hey, when you're out there with this guy, here's a position you play. And when you're out with this guy, if it doesn't suit that guy, we'd want to flip him, right? Or conversely, when you're out there with this other guy, now we want you to play that spot. So you know, just in general, philosophical, you know, belief for me, the more things you can do, the better off you are. And I do think it helps the team. Now, are there instances and cases where we're not going to move certain guys all over the place? Absolutely. Absolutely. Either A, because the guys that he's in with can do different things, or B, he's just so good at that spot that we're just going to keep him doing that. That will happen. But now is the time to kind of see what those guys, where they're comfortable, where they have to improve in those different spots. And I think that helps them elevate their game.
Off that, Carly Morado with TMJ4 in Milwaukee. Have you always done this, like mixing and matching guys, or is it more so here with the Packers just because of the talent that you have on defense and the capability to do that?
Probably kind of always done it, honestly. This has been a cool crew to work with because of the amount of guys that have a multiple skill set, is how I would say that. So again, I think that's our job, to put him in those positions to showcase that as much as we can, as long, it's not just like about one guy, right? It's got to improve the defense in some way. But I do believe, and I used to one of those questions, get Micah, get him his touches, right? I do believe in players, not plays. Well, when you think about what that means for us is, who are we, where are we putting our guys, and what are we asking them to do schematic and technically to affect the game in a positive way? That's what I'm saying about get guys touches. So hopefully it comes to fruition.
Jonathan, you're kind of at like the 6-month mark. Carson Ballard.
Yeah, Carson.
You're at like sort of the 6-month mark since you got to Green Bay. Has it sort of met all of your expectations in your time here so far?
More so.
What's that?
Yeah, probably more so. You know, I was just very impressed with leadership, the building, the operation, and the players. And those aspects have exceeded my expectations. So it's very easy to be energetic about the job.
Hey, Jonathan, Wes Hockwitz, Packers.com. We were talking with X and Evan and Javon, just kind of their excitement about what your scheme is and how that kind of plays into their skill set. What do you think of what you have at that safety position and just sort of the chess pieces there with?
Yeah, I think, you know, specifically those three guys and some other guys that you didn't mention, they have unique skill sets. You know, when you got guys that, you know, can cover, tackle, play with vision, match people, blitz. I think we need to deploy them to put pressure on the offense as much as we can, and try to make it hard on them. So, you know, I'm sure as we get going, each game is going to look hopefully it should look different to you guys week by week, and that's because we have the constant of our team, but there's a variable that's changing every week, their team, right? So, you know, hopefully you get to see them do it all.
Jonathan, Mike Clemens from Wisconsin Radio. You know, you have the track record with the use of safeties, and some of the receivers here talked about that free safety look. Could you talk about the importance of safety and how much that's based on what you have for personnel right now?
Yeah, they're the last line of defense. So first trait I look for in that position is reliability. And then I think that you can get creative in ways that, you know, I don't want to say make it hard on an offense, but gives them a different picture, and you're really not doing anything different. Now, that only can be good if those guys can do that. And I do believe we have the room to do that.
John, back to the rookies, specifically with Marcus Eversole from the Fan Sports Radio here in Green Bay. Specifically with Deny, what do you like about rushing him inside? We've seen that a lot so far in camp.
Yeah, we're trying them out. We're trying all those guys out in there. You know, you've seen that, multiple guys go inside. again, it's just like all the other guys that we're talking about, seeing what they can do. You know what I mean? Seeing if they can impact the game from different spots. So I do think, you know, there's an element of a smaller body inside that gives another layer for the O-line, how they have to play, you know, and I like that layer that provides for us. So we'll keep going down with all our guys and see what it looks like, you know. But at the end of the day, we got to get our best guys out there as it relates to individually and collectively and try to put pressure on the offense.
Jonathan, are you in the school that you're not going to show a thing in preseason of any part of your scheme, or do you, in a new place, feel like you actually have to work on something?
Yeah, a lot of different ways to do it. Had some really good conversations with Matt about that. I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer with that question. It's a really good question. You know, I'll probably punt that one to Matt, what we're gonna do, but, how do I say this the right way to you guys? I think that, our players, have earned the right to play our stuff and get really good at it and go play.